I really love the idea that in an Alien TV series or movie or property or whatever, someone can just ask, what happened here? And the reply can always just be, science! It kind of works. Hello, interwebs. I am here to review the latest and I believe penultimate episode of Alien Earth. This one titled Emergence. This one was a really solid episode, but I don't actually have a ton to say about it, not because it was bad by any means, but because it was kind of just the big action setup for our finale. Like, a lot of the dominoes that we have been setting in place are finally falling here, and none of it really is too unexpected for me. Again, not bad, but it is sort of like, all right, I kind of saw where this was all heading. We kind of knew this was where this was going, and it leads us into what will hopefully be a really strong finale. So this was a solid episode, but again, not too much of a standout one in terms of a lot of the ideas that it was presenting or confronting us with, but almost certainly is setting us up for a good place to get into our final episode of the show. Kind of going into a little bit, I really liked the opening of this where like everyone just coming in and seeing what happened inside the lab, and we get Kirsch talking to Boy Cavalier about what's happening, basically explaining, and Boy Cavalier's like, oh shit, I guess we lost $6 million, and like not caring about the fact that Isaac has died. And then when Wendy comes in, she's actually upset and is now confronted with the fact that they are in some way mortal. She has that line of like, we are premium, you can't kill us, that sort of thing. But is now confronted with that, and Boy Cavalier not knowing how to like speak to Wendy as a human being, or a person, I guess would probably be the better way to put it. And then both of them kind of being like, oh shit, when Wendy literally controls the xenomorph. And they're like, well, fuck, let's split everyone up. We should not be leaving it like this. This is not going to end well for us. And no, it won't. So yeah, I thought all of that was pretty fascinating. We also get Wendy is finally escaping with her brother and also Nibs. We also had another character, I forget her name, that they like said, don't tell on us to, which I found funny because I'm like, I don't know. I think Curly was her name. We don't know Curly really enough to be getting like a sense of like, she's one of the Lost Boys that we, I think, know the least. So it was hard to sort of get a read on like, why do I care if she turns them in? Like the emotional arc there for her is a little lost, but I do really like how as they were escaping, we see Wendy literally controlling the xenomorph. Like, pet xenomorph is a really cool idea that we haven't really seen in the franchise before. I think the closest we've come is Alien Resurrection. Not a great movie, but it did have an element of like Sigourney Weaver getting to control the human-alien hybrid thing in that movie, but then it was still played more for a horror angle, and Sigourney being like, nah, I don't like this at all. Here, Wendy is full-on embraced being Mama Alien, and, I should say Marcy, sorry. I should say Marcy, not Wendy. So I love that she has control of this thing, and we'll hopefully see that in full force next week. But we also get a few extra little dynamics here with Marcy's brother, Nemec. I just keep calling him Nemec. I know his name isn't Nemec, but I keep thinking Nemec for some reason, because his name is very similar in this show, and he's also Nemec from Star Wars Andor, so apologies that I keep getting his name wrong. But Nemec having that one moment where he grieves over his sister's body's grave, and we kind of knew that was a thing, but it does set us up in this thinking for him of like, oh, is my sister actually really dead? Is this hybrid really my sister? And that really comes into the end of this episode where he shoots Nibs to protect his friends, and Nibs essentially gets killed. And it is this question that'll probably become more relevant in the final episode then, is like, does he really view the hybrids as children, as people, and more specifically Marcy as his sister, or does he just deperson them? And I think that is a fascinating place to really come into this from, especially because it comes at it from a different angle of he has been humanizing these hybrids this entire time, and he has been seeing them as kids, and you can still see this sort of like element of like, but is she really, though? And I like that the show kind of has come at it from that arc, because it would have been very easy for the arc to be like, I don't see you as my sister, and finally coming around to seeing her as his sister by the end of it. I think this is just a more complicated look at like how people will like still treat people like human beings up until the point where they have to like react on a choice of who they see as people or not. And I think that that's a much more nuanced understanding of like internalized biases and prejudice that can come up even when people aren't really forefronting it or even acting on it that too much, but it can come across in a subconscious level sometimes. And I think that that's really, really cool and a great question for us to end in here, that we see Nemec valuing his, crewmates, his squad mates, over the life of a person that he thought was a kid, or at least he seemed to act like it was a kid. And will that conflict come even more prominent with his sister, who is now literally controlling a xenomorph? And will that deperson her even more in his mind, but also put him in a lot more danger if she gets very angry at him? So good place to go into there. We also get the further adventures of Smiley and our favorite cyborg, Morrow. I loved the moment where, Smiley convinces his friend to try and help him, and his friend is like, oh yeah, it'll be okay, right? And then everything seems okay with Arthur. I love that last scene with Arthur where he's like, hey, he treats them like kids. And I say that in a good way of like, hey, it's okay. I will help you. I promise you. And then Arthur just immediately dies from the xenomorph, the chest burster. And then Morrow just basically comes in and says, man up, be a man. You have to deal with, like, you're acting like children, sort of thing. And again, it just showcases the distinction of, like, these are really kids, and they deserve to have a childhood, and that has been repeatedly denied them based on people who are using them as property, who are using them for their own agendas continually over and over. And Arthur has probably been the closest to someone who is actually treating them like kids, Arthur and his wife, and even they haven't fully 100% done that. So I really do like that final moment for Arthur building into Morrow. I also love the reveal, and we kind of knew this going in, but again, so it wasn't terribly shocking, but Kirsch getting one up on Morrow and like literally capturing them as they came in is like, we got you. We were planning for this. He even has the baby xenomorph in a box that he's like, yeah, I already planned for all of this. I love that, like, just show off. And he's like, and he's just so calm about it. It's like, I won, it's things are never over, and like just grounds the kids like a parent. And it's just like, yeah, he was well aware. And, I had been on the assumption that he was setting up a coup on Boy Cavalier, and that still could be the case going into the next episode, but it does appear to be more here that he was just setting this all in motion so he could catch Morrow in the act on their property and thus could arrest him legally. So playing the long game for Kirsch, but we'll see if he's playing an even longer game as we go further into this. A couple other random small things here. We got a little scene with, I forget a name, but Arthur's wife with some of the other ones that was kind of sweet. But we also get the really cool sequence with Boy Cavalier and the eyeball monster. I really hope Boy Cavalier gets eyeballed at some point. I'm really counting on that in the finale. I think everyone's kind of calling that, but I really hope he does get eyeballed. But it is also a clear indicator that the eyeball is very intelligent. It can literally do pi. And I also love it shitting, being like, I'm not playing your fucking games anymore at the end there. And Boy Cavalier just, again, being excited to buy this new toy that he has. He's lost $6 billion or however much dollars it was on Isaac's death, and now he's just got a new toy to play with, and that's all he gives a shit about, quite literally, and is willing to sacrifice more people to it, whether it be a janitor or someone else. We'll see whoever his perfect person is, probably Nemec. Next episode, but yeah, he's just enamored with a new toy and does not see that this eyeball thing is intelligent and not only will probably kill him, but also is a being that deserves autonomy and respect. Again, I don't think this is going to be the case, but there is a part of me that really wishes that we would get like some level of reveal that the eyeball guy, the eyeball alien is actually not a bad alien. Like, it actually like doesn't want to just kill all humans and is not just out there to murder all humans, but is just like, I just want out and fuck this boy Cavalier person. The rest of y'all are chill, but I just want to fuck this guy up and get the fuck out of here. Again, I doubt that that's going to be the case. I'm sure it just wants to like be evil. Like we've gotten hints that like maybe it tried to warn that scientist in the other episode, but then it also got Isaac killed. So its motivations are more just probably focused on escape. But I hope I don't know. I just like the idea that like it has some not benevolent motivations, but is not just completely evil or out to get people like the xenomorph generally speaking is. Like the xenomorph outside of being controlled by Marcy now is generally more just I'm gonna murder everybody, and I like that the eyeball alien has a bit more going on than that. So curious to see where all that's going to go. That's pretty much everything that I had here. Again, this is a good setup for our finale, so we'll see where our finale eventually takes us out of the show. But yeah, phenomenal episode, and I'm excited going into what I believe unless I'm miscounting. I think there's only one more episode left, but remind me in the comments if I'm forgetting that. But excited to see where we go next week. But until that point, I hope you all, my friends, live long and prosper.